Okay, my bad. My bad. I'm kind of out of it. I apologize. This is a fucking traumatic event. This is a heavy event, and I am just you know dealing with a lot of chaos. And I'm usually pretty good with chaos, and I'm good with hand. I apologize. I thought I was live, but man, I feel bad. Anyway, let me take you through what I've been talking about because I've been basically talking for half an hour to myself, and I totally apologize. Okay, so let's talk. Let's start from the beginning. I was I was up until about 2 a.m. on Saturday morning. I'm sorry, Friday morning, and I eventually went to sleep. But between 11:30 p.m. and about 2:15 a.m., it was very intense thunder, lightning, heavy duty rain, at least two warnings that you should shelter in place, not drive anywhere. And then, probably about 5 a.m., after I was asleep, I got woken up by another warning. And that warning at around 5 a.m. was the same warning that people got at Hunt and Ingram and basically all over Kerrville. Okay. So I'm sorry. I apologize. But yeah, just working through this stuff is not easy. I got to tell you. So I knew we were going to get heavy rain, and I knew we were going to have this dump, and I knew that we were going to have, you know, well, I was experiencing the thunder and the lightning. It was like, but it's not something that we haven't experienced over the last 3 weeks. We have had a steady amount of rain over the last 3 weeks, maybe even longer, month and a half. And everybody here is really happy for the rain. Oh, we love the rain. The rain. We need the rain. We need the rain. And the problem is that when you get a lot of rain over a relatively short period of time, the ground doesn't dry and it continues to kind of soak the rain. So we're dealing with uh, already heavily saturated ground. Okay. And I think I was talking with Joan about a week ago, and I said, this weather is really weird. It's really weird, and it feels very ominous to me. You can ask her, right? I just felt like something was really off, like something is going to happen, and I couldn't put my finger on it because none of it seemed real. It was like this is no summer I've ever experienced in Texas, and I've been here since 2012, so 13 years. Never this deep into the season have we been this cool and had so much precipitation. And nobody's complaining, right? Because what they don't want or don't like is Texas in the 100s and no rain. So nobody's going to complain about it. But it started to feel really weird to me. And we had been getting a lot of rain. So we were getting used to having all this rain. And again, everybody's happy. Their lawns are green, right? Their plants don't have to be constantly watered. We're not on some kind of, water rationing deal right now. Like, it's not like, oh, every other day or every third day you get to. No, we've just had like all this water on a consistent basis. But on Friday, on Thursday night, early Friday morning, it went to a whole other level, like a completely different level. So what I'd done is I compiled some videos, which I actually played, and I'm going to replay them for you. So this video I took at about 9:30 in the morning, And it's me driving down Junction Highway, which cuts through the center of Kerrville and goes basically east-west. If you go far enough west, you go to Bandera. If you go east, you go to Ingram and Hunt. So this is me at about 9:30 in the morning. Oh, that's not it. That's not it. Let me remove this one. Let's see. This is it right here. Stage. All right, so this is what I'm seeing at about 9:30 a.m.
Okay, here we go for first responder action right here. And we're going to see a lot of this likely over the next 24 hours. I'd say 4th of July is pretty much canceled here. Another one.
I know. I'm trying to get to the video. I'm trying to get to the video. It is buried at this point. Video is buried. Hold on. So this is the video.
Okay, here we go for first responder.
Should be playing. Why aren't you playing? Here we go. Right here.
Okay, here we go for first responder action.
Fucking StreamYard. Pardon my French. All right. Here it is right here.
Okay, here we go for first responder action right here. And we're going to see a lot of this likely over the next 24 hours. I'd say 4th of July is pretty much canceled here. Another one.
So that was at about 9:30 a.m. And this is really the first wave of first responders. Then after that, we started to see helicopters, pontoon boats, anything that they could use to rescue people. Okay, those started to come in. All right. And these are some of the images of the water. So this is shortly after that. And I go to this boat launch and I videotape the water coming down the river, which is incredibly high.
Ramp. And over here we have a bunch of trees that have been uprooted. And I've been watching like a lot of flotsam and jetsam sort of come down the river. This is like from like Ingram and Hunt, which is upriver. And you can see like right here, just lots of debris, stuff that's being uprooted from upriver. Here comes a big...
Now, I thought this thing was part of a tree, but I'm still waking up here. And it's actually a dumpster.
Like tree trunk. Like coming down. It's moving pretty slow, but you can see it right there. See that?
So there's a dumpster coming down
So there's
from
all
upriver.
kinds of like upriver damage, and it's gonna accumulate at a certain point, right? All this stuff that's being uprooted by these heavy waters is now migrating down this river.
Okay, here's another one. This is a little further down, and it's right off of Guadalupe Street, which runs parallel to the river. And this is probably around 11 o'clock. So the water's receded a bit, but it's still really high, and you can see like the damage with the trees and a bunch of other shit here. Stuff from the beginning. These are all fallen trees right here. Fallen trees here, here. Right. Normally this is not this high, but the water had already gone way past this water line. Way past this water line. So there's Guadalupe Street, which is on the other side of this. The water had receded by this time, but just look how turgid it is. This is all damage, damage, damage. Now, there are videos, and you can find them, of cars, people in cars going down the river. Okay. Like this thing was supernatural in some ways, right? Like I'm always, I think it was back in 2011, there was a major flood in Australia. And I kept watching the news reports on it over and over and over again because it was so mind blowing and powerful. And it wasn't even like that. It was like just rising water from a flood coming into like a parking lot for a like an office park. And in there were all these cars. And the water just rose up and just started to move all these cars. And along with the cars that it was moving, had a freaking 16 wheeler being literally uprooted and moved like a, like a matchbox car. And that's when I realized just how powerful water is. I just kept watching this video over and over again. So that's at like 9:30, and then later at 11. But the major dump really took place at about five in the morning, and a lot of it concentrated in Hunt, which we'll talk about. And to give you an idea as to how intense this was, the water level, people are estimating anywhere between 23 to 28 feet in 10 to 15 minutes. Wrap your head around that. 23 to 28 feet in 10 to 15 minutes. And there are all these stories of people just not having any time at all to get their shit together and get out and get in their car and get to higher ground. Like people aren't even awake, right? They're waking up to the water levels rising in whatever structure they're in. So there's this story that we watched. It's like this woman, and she was talking about how she. So it's interesting because Ingram is a little. I don't want to use the word white trashy, but it is not as like upper scale as Hunt. Hunt has a lot of money. We're going to talk about Hunt. We'll talk about the Mystic Camp. We get into some of that symbolism. Hunt has a lot of money, and riverfront property in Hunt is highly prized and valued. And a lot of those places are generational, that they're passed down from one family to another. Ingram has some of that, but it's not the same. In Ingram, you'll find trailer parks, right? And they're not, you know, KOA style trailer parks. These are people that are, living in single and double wides, and their income level is, you know, not great, right? So there's this woman, she's there with her, I guess, sister-in-law, and she's telling this story that her husband came home from work at about 2 a.m. and they stayed up and they're hanging out. They fell asleep a little bit, and then all of a sudden, the water started to come into their trailer. Now, according to this woman, she has her fiance, it was her fiance, two children, pets, and a mother in law. And they're all in one trailer. And then this guy's sister and I guess his brother are in the trailer next to them. And the water is starting to come up and they're talking to each other and they're freaking out and they don't know what to do, right? They tried opening the door. And when they did, all this water started to rush in. So they closed the door and he decides that he's going to break a window in their RV, and he uses his hand, but then he slices his wrist open and he starts to bleed out. So she's trying to get her mother-in-law to do a tourniquet, which she's never done before, and she's watching her husband bleed out in front of her as the water is rising in this trailer. And I can only imagine, like, what the fuck is going on in their heads. Like, the water's becoming sort of this muddy red, and there are kids in there, and his mother's in there, and he basically told her, "I'm gone." Like, he said goodbye. And like, it's just nuts, right? And then and the nuts part is that the water actually receded. Like, if he hadn't done that, it would have been okay. Like, it reached a certain height and then it went down. And now this guy is dead, probably the breadwinner of the family. And that's just one story. Like, there are multiple stories to this. So um, we went today to go check on a friend's property. Now, normally that property we can get to, it's about 9 miles away. That highway's closed. It's a riverfront highway. It's not even a highway. It's like a kind of a country road. And National Geographic called it one of the 10 best roads in America to travel on because it's so lush and so green and so verdant, and you're kind of, alongside the river, and there are all these older cabins that are well taken care of. Again, this is like generational money in Hunt. So normally we could go just 9 miles, but we couldn't do that. We had to go 22 miles and do the back road. And then when we got there, we came across this like part of the road that was flooded out. And we literally had to, drive over the water, which was going into the Guadalupe. And then on the other side of that, a big patch of the road, the asphalt was just taken out, right? So you had to go from you're making sure you don't hydroplane over this water crossing, and then you had to hit this really hard patch with no asphalt, probably about 5 feet wide from shoulder to shoulder. And we couldn't find our friend's place, but we took a picture of the water and we sent that to them, and they showed us with an arrow, like, this is where our driveway is. And the reason we couldn't find it was because all of this debris had piled up on their driveway, so we couldn't even see it. In fact, there wasn't even, they have these signs for like the water gauge, like high watermark signs. That was gone, right? So I don't know what the condition of their place is, but they're probably going to need like a small cat, bulldozer to go in and plow through. Because once this stuff starts to accumulate, it just becomes this vegetal mass of all these different plants and bark and trees and mud, and it's like, it's and then it's going to harden, right? And all this stuff's going to bind together. It's just an absolute mess. So there are a lot of RVs. Like, this is a big time of year for this area, and people like to come to the river on 4th of July, and they bring their RVs. They come from all over the state. They come from places like Houston. They'll even come from San Antonio, or they'll come from some other place, right? Texas, just so they can have their RV experience down by the river. Well, those RVs, a lot of them are gone now, right? Like, the river came up and they just moved these RVs down the river, and we saw what happened to these RVs. These RVs will hit these trees. Now, the trees are at the landline. But because the river's so high, right, it is like moving shit into these trees. And these RVs hit these trees with the force of water, and you can't even recognize the RV anymore. It looks like a spool of shredded spaghetti, shredded metal spaghetti wrapped around these trees. Like it's not even recognizable. I mean, that is the force of nature that we're dealing with here. And we're going to get into some of the astrology around this, but I wanted to give you just sort of the boots on the ground vibe. It's very dark. It is a very dark vibe. The energy, of course, is super heavy. You know, there's like just an incredible amount of tragedy that is going to be, we're going to hear more stories as the days go on. So let's talk about Camp Mystic. Okay. Camp Mystic is a tradition here in Texas. And it was started by this woman, Agnes something. Let me just, Camp Mystic. Um, see their Wikipedia. I mean, this is brutal. There are all these different camps along the river. Okay. And Camp Mystic is a camp for girls. And it was established in 1928. And now these aren't the girls that were there, but I'll just give you a sense as to sort of what, it's like girls club. And they developed this camp. You got the M for Mystic. They developed this camp so that girls can experience empowerment, right? So this is the history of Camp Mystic. So it was established in 1926 by University of Texas coach Doc Stewart. Camp Mystic had one 8-week session from beginning until 1942. After World War II, Camp Mystic began offering 2 sessions and later added a 2-week third session in 1983. So it's this woman, Agnes Stacy, fondly called Ag, A-G, became familiar. You can't see it? Okay, hold on. Yes, it's fucking StreamYard again. Right there. So she sent her daughter to the camp in 1933. The next year, AG attended Mystic herself as a director. In 1939, she and her husband, Pop Stacy, decided to purchase the camp. They began many of the traditions which are still followed by Mystic's campers. Ag and Pop, with their 2 children, Ann Stacy Eastland Spears and William Gillespie Stacy Jr., kept Mystic in continuous operation except for 10 years. For the years 1943-45, when it was leased by the federal government as a rehabilitation and recovery camp for Army Air Corps veterans of World War II. Mr. and Mrs. Frank C. Harrison, affectionately called Innie and Frank, were brought to Mystic in December of 1948 by AG. Before coming to Mystic, Innie was a teacher for many years and worked alongside her husband, Frank. So these are the people that took over for the founders, right? So this place is, let's see you see some of the too many requests. So there are too many people on this site right now because everybody wants to see it, right? Everybody wants to go there. Let's see. log in. So this camp is the camp of the elites. The elites send their children here. And I'm not dissing the fact that they do that. But Lyndon Johnson's girls, the girls that go to Camp Mystic, the tuition is $4,000. I believe it's for a 2-week, or is it 2 weeks or a month? I forget, but it's not cheap. Right. So the girls that went missing are the daughters of elite Texas families. And it's not the only camp there. There are all these camps that are near and around the river. Some of them are boys' camps where they hunt and they fish and they do all that summer stuff. I'm not sure if there's any co-ed, but Mystic is definitely a girls' camp. So if I'm not mistaken, one girl has been found from Camp Mystic. And there's a video, I think, let me see if we can find it. There's a video of the actual cabin floating down the river. Okay. If I can find it, I'll see it. I'll pull it up here. But you can hear them, right? You can hear them. They're like totally freaked out. And there was this one girl who got tossed out. She's alive. She's alive, but the rest have been either found, and if they haven't been found, they weren't alive, and dead. Right. I think there might have been a counselor that might have been rescued. Let's play this. This is a Dallas teen who was part of Camp Mystic, and I think she might have been a counselor. Let's see if we can play this. Let's do this.
Texas, as the death toll rises again following the flooding in Central Texas. 51 people are now confirmed dead, including 15 children. Crews continue working around the clock through flooded out roadways and bridges, trying to find survivors. Governor Greg Abbott maintains this remains a rescue mission, not recovery. Now here's a look at some of the victims in this disaster. Many families mourning their losses as others are awaiting answers. This is what's left of Camp Mystic following the flood early Friday morning. The main road to there is washed out. Some campers, they're actually trapped in muddy bunks, clinging for safety, waiting for rescue. Tonight, we are hearing from a Dallas camper that was rescued from Camp Mystic. Staying on higher ground, she was safe from the floodwaters, yet remains heartbroken for those deeply impacted. She and her mother sat down with NBC5's Katie Blakey.
How are you doing today?
I think while it was going on, I kind of felt like a sense of numbness. Saying it out loud is making me realize what actually happened and how bad it actually is.
Just days after being dropped off to start a much anticipated July term at Camp Mystic, 13-year-old Stella is now processing the rains that ravaged the beloved camp and claimed the lives of so many children. Her 6th summer at Mystic, Stella was on the Cypress Lake side when storms awoke her cabin early Friday morning. On higher ground and out of view of the Guadalupe side, it wasn't until helicopters began buzzing overhead she realized something was truly wrong.
I think it's the uncertainty that really shook up our cabin.
Eventually, they were told campers along the Guadalupe had been evacuated due to flooding, but had no idea the scope of the crisis.
Eventually, when we got that news, we were all like hysterical. and praying a lot. And the whole cabin was like really, really terrified. But not for ourselves.
Worried for those on the other side. It wasn't until military trucks arrived to evacuate their camp late Friday that they get a first glimpse of the devastation.
You'd see kayaks like in trees, and it was kind of horrific because we had no idea. Some people saw a couple trucks and just like in the debris, and then there was first responders in the water pulling out like girls, like sheets. I saw someone holding like a cloth from the water, and there were huge trees ripped out of the ground and like their roots, and it didn't look like Camp Mystic anymore.
Their thoughts remain with those grieving and those still waiting.
We are just so happy that she is safe and we are with her and we have her. So we are just grateful to be some of the fortunate ones. So there's a sense of relief and equal sense of just awareness of that's not everybody's story. And that's just two kind of competing emotions.
Touched by the outpouring of support for the Camp Mystic community.
We hope that all the folks who are still missing loved ones are feeling that outpouring of love.
They are comforted by words often echoed by camp leaders.
A bell is not a bell until you ring it. A song is not a song until you sing it.
Okay, so yeah, we're still going to find out more about all of this, and we're going to find out more about the body count, and the dollar count. The dollar count is insane. I think we're looking at billions of dollars in damage. I mean, they're going to have to cut away all this debris. It's going to be a massive undertaking, absolutely massive undertaking. So, and it's again, the word I would use is surreal. It's totally surreal. All right. And even this camp, it's a very interesting name. Like it's Camp Mystic, and yet it's supposed to be Christian. And I'm not here to diss the camp or anything, but when you get into mystic, you get into things like Pisces and Neptune, and you get into some very deep water symbolism. And the river is the Guadalupe, right? And that is the Virgin. That is the Virgin, Guadalupe. And there are some people here that are pitting a religious and significance and symbolic meaning around this. I think there is some of that, but there's also a lot of high strange and conspiratorial talk going on, which I will address. But before I do that, I'm going to get into some of the symbolism, the astrological symbolism. Okay, so one of the things that popped into my mind really early on was Kerrville's relationship with the eclipses of 2023 and 2024. So let me show you what it looks like on the map, 2023 and 2024 eclipses. Okay, this is where I want to start. Because when it happened, I'm like, oh, Kerrville's the center of it all. Kerrville is where these two eclipses met up. It's right here. Let's do this. We'll put in Kerrville. All right, let me find you a good map. This is from the Kerrville Visitors Bureau. So they're hyping it up, right? The Kerrville Visitors Bureau is hyping this thing up because they know that they are the epicenter for both eclipses. So you can see that this was the October 14th eclipse, right? And it starts off in Oregon and it comes down here and it literally empties into the Gulf of America. And this is the April 8th eclipse, and it starts here off the coast of Mexico and comes this way and empties out into Halifax, Nova Scotia. And where do the 2 points meet? That is Kerrville, Texas, ladies and gentlemen. Right there. X marks the spot. There are other, this is interesting because this is this place that was up on the hill here. They've got this giant cross up on the hill. And this is the Coming King Foundation. So it's like this, I don't know, it's like this knight meets Jesus and the avenging sword, and they've got a sculpture garden. I mean, I drove up there sort of before the eclipse, and they did this thing, right? God marked the spot. The annual solar eclipse here, and check this out. It's this, and they're proud of this part, that it's the same latitude as Israel. They're very happy about that. And it is an empty cross. There's an actual cross there. It's a giant metal sculpture. And God marked this spot, the annular. So they're very happy about it. I think this guy was there. He might have talked about it. That's the April 8th eclipse. Get your t-shirts, and boy, oh boy, it's just a grand event. I bet they had no idea that with Kerrville being the epicenter of this eclipse, it opened up this idea that we would start talking about this flood, and probably in very biblical terms. And I guarantee you there are people in this area that are talking about this flood in exactly the same way. They're going to call this the days of Noah, right? This is going to take on a major theological theme in churches, in not only here in the Hill Country, but all over Texas, right? This is going to be viewed as a sign, as a warning sign of the end days. That this is this to them, this would be an end days event. Okay, and it sort of fits some of the themes astrologically, but not entirely completely. And I know that I'm going to be looking at this from an astrological perspective, and it's really challenging when you're dealing with the loss of human life and families and property. Like, it's like, okay, well, here's why this happened. Here's how this happened. Like, it's very easy to become kind of objective and then start breaking shit down. So I want to be clear that I'm only doing this because it may help us understand it in a way that isn't maybe so random. You know, I'm just naturally wired this way anyway, but I don't want this to feel exploitative. It's like, oh, look at this, and all these people are in here, and I'm talking about this event because I live here, and it's just it's a natural byproduct. And some of the things I'll show you will be quite interesting on an astrological level, and actually tying into one of the eclipses. So if we look at this event, and let me go back here, just share this with you again. If we look at this event, right, and we see that this is the focal point. Now, we had another eclipse, that was in 2017, and that went this way, but we're just talking about these two eclipses. And this event has produced like a tremendous amount of feeling and intensity. I mean, there are people the world over that are talking about this. Like the BBC is intensely focused on this event. Like news agencies from all over the world are focused on this event. And what was interesting is that when we had the eclipse in 2024, which was the total solar eclipse, I was really concerned about water, but I was concerned about water from the New Madrid and the Mississippi River. Little did I know that the kind of effect that I had thought about for the New Madrid actually happened here in Kerrville and in Hunt and in Ingram. But if we have these pathways, right, that have been created by the eclipse movement, and we have this very intense and emotional kind of experience that's happening here, it's almost as if the meridians and the pathway to distribute the emotion has been set up. These are like channels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some eclipse related material that is also very much connected to the flood. So I'm going to bring this up here. Now, this is at about 12:30 a.m. when things are really starting to get wild and heavy, okay? So if you look on the ascendant, what do we see? We see Pisces, which is water, right? Heavy duty water coming in at around 12:30 a.m. It's when things really start to get intense. If you notice here, we also have Saturn and Neptune in the first house, right there. Actually, this is July 4th, so it's early in the morning. Okay, here's the moon. It's at 28 degrees Libra. Now, if you guys follow me on Twitter, I did a whole breakdown of the 28th degree astrologically and how it is the most unstable degree in the zodiac. Because at 29, it goes completely flat and anoretic. And then at 0, it's in a new sign and it's at its greatest strength, right? So here we have the moon at 28 degrees. And it's that really unstable degree. And what's going on with the moon? Well, we have an inconjunct going on with Uranus. Okay. Something is happening here, right? Something is happening here. Something is affecting what's going on with the moon in a way that we don't understand or see. Now, I've heard people talk about weather wars. And initially, when it was put on the table, I just thought, well, why would somebody want to basically destroy Hunt, Texas? Like, if you wanted to get rid of 25 girls of the elites, there'd be a much better way of doing it than setting off a catastrophic flood. So there's that. Why else? Well, somebody had put in that Kerrville had just passed a uh, gas plant or propane plant or something like that. Like but that plant is not going to be in Hunt, and it's not going to be in Ingram. If anything, it'll probably be further to the south of town. I don't really see that being tied in to this flood. I don't think the math really works there. Now, there's also some information that they've been practicing some weather warfare, which I'll get into. And that could be a possibility. But again, why? It doesn't seem very strategic unless you're trying to sort of drop a rock in the center of that black hole, which is where the eclipses took place. And then there's a ripple effect from that outward, possibly. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen this sprite that they can't even describe. It's like this thing that just shoots up out of the earth. They actually like caught it from space. And I think that might have happened, what, a day or two before this flood. And again, I'm not saying that the two are related, but something is strange here with Uranus and this inconjunct. And again, these two are at the final degrees, right? The final degrees. Now, if you go back and you look at Fukushima in 2011, Uranus was in Pisces at 29 degrees. And then Neptune was in Aquarius at 29 degrees. So you had these two outer planets getting ready to move into water and fire, which I think in a lot of ways sums up Fukushima. Heavy duty water, and then you have these very hot temperatures and the core and all the nuclear shit, right? So there's something here about this 29th degree. It's anaretic. It's getting ready to move into Gemini. And there's this inconjunct happening. Something is going on here. And it's either technological or it has some deeper relationship with the Earth. Okay, so there's that. Let's look at the sun. The sun is conjunct Sirius. Okay? This is a big fucking deal. Because in Egypt, when heliacal Sirius rises before the sun, it signals that the Nile Valley will be flooded. And they plant rice accordingly because they know that as Sirius rises before the sun, the Nile is going to flood. The rice is in the ground and it stays saturated for a long time, and rice actually grows out of the sort of the marshy swampland adjacent to the Nile. And they get rice. They have been doing this for centuries. So Sirius does indeed participate in flooding. Okay, again, it's generally associated with Egypt, but we have Jupiter also in Cancer. So we have Jupiter in Cancer, we have the Sun in Cancer, and we have the Sun conjunct Sirius. That's a lot of fucking water. That is a ton of water. And I remember like looking at the moon in Scorpio thinking, that's a lot of water. And I wish I had completed some of those thoughts earlier in the week when I was looking at the moon in Scorpio for the weekend, because it just felt dark. You know, the energies felt really, really dark. Little did I know that the darkness would be about 3 or 4 miles away from me. So I do think that this Sun Jupiter Sirius conjunction is a big deal. It's a very, very big deal. And then, of course, this is the time that's starting to happen. Pisces on the midheaven, right? And even Saturn, Neptune in the first house. Now, it's a fire sign, right? Both of them, but Neptune rules water. So this is turgid, right? This is intense, and it's squaring off against Jupiter. And what did Jupiter squares do? They make everything bigger. That's the nature of a Jupiter square. It makes everything bigger. All right. So I'm setting the stage here to show you the eclipse from October. Okay. All right. That's one. I got all these charts. Okay. So this is around 11:30 p.m. This is just before midnight. And again, things are coming down pretty hard, right? Okay. So on the outer ring, you will see the conditions of the eclipse that took place on October 14th at 12:59 p.m. right here in Kerrville. What do you see? You see the Libra moon right here. So the Libra moon, and I basically backed it out an hour. So the Libra moon here is 1 degree. It's 27 here. Like the inner ring is what's happening at 11:30 on the 3rd. The outer ring is what's happening on the eclipse. So the moon on the eclipse was at 21 degrees. So we have a disparity of 6 degrees, an orb of 6 degrees. Now, Mars was at 5 Scorpio, right? Where is it? Mars right there. 1 Scorpio. 1 Scorpio. And that's going to be significant. I'm going to show you why. But what we're seeing here, right? What we're seeing is the conjunction between not only the eclipse moon, but the eclipse sun. That's all happening here. And it's just 6 degrees off of the beginning of, like, if I wanted to, I could have gone back until like 9 o'clock at night when it started to rain about 9 o'clock. It really picks up at about 11:30. At 9 o'clock, that moon is probably about 25 degrees. So now we're talking about a difference of 4 degrees with this eclipse sun. So this is I think this is a pretty significant chart as it relates to this moon, this Libra moon. And now what's going to happen as we move deeper into the night, that moon is going to move into Scorpio, and it is going to conjunct the Mars at 1 degree of Scorpio of the eclipse. So transiting moon will conjoin that Mars, which is pretty freaking violent, if you ask me. Right? And if we're looking at about 11:30 at night, right, we're still dealing with the moon here, but it's in the 8th house, which is the under. By 12:30, it'll still be in Libra. It'll be at that 28th degree. We'll see the Piscean ascendant, which is going to be water, more water. But I think this is really significant, right? This is very significant. So let me show you what it looks like when, okay, that's the April eclipse. April eclipse, let's see. Okay, so this is, right, this is when things are really cooking. So this is around 6 a.m. And this is when all the havoc and chaos is starting to take place. So you can see now at 6 a.m., check this out, the ascendant is in Cancer. And this is all local water, right? Cancer is local water. And if you look at, maybe I can do like an aerial view of Hunt, but I'll show you. Like what they did with Hunt is they've sort of dammed off parts of the river so that if you're at one of these camps, you kind of swim in these areas because the river is sort of running around like these areas. You can see them from above. So this is all really like local water. And Cancer is local water. It's wells, it's creeks. It is some rivers, not big raging rivers, like big raging rivers like the Nile or the Amazon. Like those are very scorpionic expressions of water. Cancer's local water, but at 6 a.m., we have a ton of it here, right? We have Jupiter, we have the sun conjunct Sirius. Remember, heliacal Sirius rising brings the floodwaters to the Nile. And look where the moon is now. The moon is at 0 Scorpio, right? 0 freaking Scorpio. And now we have an inconjunct. And the inconjunct is with Uranus, Venus, and Neptune and Saturn right down here. Something is driving like this very intense and this is deadly water. Like this is deadly water. That's what happens. It becomes deadly water. People wind up dying here, right? It's very intense. Very, very intense. You've got a moon square Pluto going on. Like that is the freaking undertow. And Pluto's in the 8th house. And the 8th house, you're dealing with families and traditions. You're dealing with camps like Camp Mystic and all these other camps where these kids get sent to for the summer. That's all 8th house stuff. And there's Pluto there. I mean, this is a perfect storm chart. I'm telling you right now. So when people ask me, do I think that it was a targeted event? There's some things that point to maybe yes. But how much more do you have to target when you have the astrology like this? The astrology, like David and I were texting the other night, and we were talking about this, and we were having a chicken and egg discussion. And my question to him was, and I've asked this before, does he think that we'll call them social engineers? And when I say social, it's everything from behavioral patterns to weather. I asked him, do you think that the social engineers are aware of astrology and piggyback on astrology to drive events? And David said, well, maybe it's the astrology that's driving the piggybacking. It's a chicken egg discussion. My feeling is that, yes, they do. When you look at 9/11, there are things about 9/11 that just scream somebody knows about astrology. Saturn was in Gemini. The moon was in Gemini. Saturn was opposing Pluto. And, when it was all said and done, Pluto and Sagittarius, we were fighting people in other countries. Like the Great Crusades were happening all over again. Pat Tillman signing up to go defend America's honor, right? I mean, that was all Pluto and Sag stuff. So, do I think that they used 9/11 as an event? Absolutely. So, do I think that this July 4th is connected to some kind of deeper demolition of the American psyche? It's possible. It's very possible because I'll tell you, there was no 4th of July here. There were no fireworks here or in Fredericksburg or any other part of this area. It was almost as if 4th of July, Independence Day, was null and void. In fact, it was so null and void that a few days before this all happened, I drove across this bridge, and there's this park here called Louise Hay, not Louise Hayes, but Louise Hay Park. And they had their stage and amphitheater all set up. They were going to have a country and western band and fireworks. I've been down there before during 4th of July. I've seen it. And I drove across that bridge. It was all water. It was all water. I drove across it yesterday. And the amphitheater stage, somewhere downriver. Like, you guys are not going to experience 4th of July here. You're not going to experience Independence Day here. So in a weird way, it's kind of very 9/11-ish. But again, like, why Kerrville, Texas? Why Hunt? Why Ingram? There seems to be so many other places that if they wanted to practice their dark arts of social engineering chicanery, that it would be perhaps more effective. But I return to the eclipse. I return to the eclipse and how it was framed in a lot of ways by those people up on the hill. I'm not saying it's their fault either. But there is going to be like there's going to be a very biblical fallout around this. And people are going to see this event as revelation. That's what I think. Right or wrong, I'm not judging it. But I think it's going to be translated into revelation. This is a sign. And if you go back to that group who has taken the ruler and taken that ruler and all the way to Israel and says, okay, Kerrville is at the same latitude as Israel. Israel begins to enter into the discussion, right? And it's like, or there are going to be people who are going to say this, that we're being like, Kerrville is being punished because maybe we haven't supported Israel enough. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm putting it on the table. You're going to hear some evangelicals talk in this way. And we've seen the blowback that people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, and to some extent Dave Smith, have gotten from not just mainstream news pundits like Mark Levin, but also, the pundits of the pulpit, and calling them out. And I could see them using an event like this to make a case that God is not well pleased with us, that we didn't support Israel enough. And this is how God punishes the disbelievers. You're going to hear this. So somebody will use this as, unfortunately, some kind of social engineering, right? But I'm not sure that that's really what this is about. From an astrological standpoint, there's just too much water. There's way too much water. Here we are at 6 a.m. We're at the peak, right? The absolute freaking peak. You got Jupiter on the ascendant. You got the sun. You've got Sirius. Literally this deluge. And then you got Mars down here in Scorpio. And that's the water of the underworld, right? That is the brackish, blackish water of death. And you've got that square with Pluto. We're going to talk about Pluto, and we're going to talk about Aquarius and the water bearer. It's almost as if the water bearer completely emptied its contents down on Hunt, Texas. And the water rose to 25 feet within 15 minutes. But there's something going on here with this inconjunct. Right? Neptune, Saturn, Venus, Uranus. Is this being driven in some ways? Are they using some kind of weather effect in order to, like, I don't really think they need to. Like, there's just an overabundance of water, period. But there's something about this yod. And I've been talking about how Neptune and Saturn has been feeling very, very Christo-fascist. That's what it feels like to me. It's feeling very Christo-fascist. Or you could throw in any of the Abrahamic faiths that are extreme, and they can be right in there with Saturn, Neptune. And then you have Venus, Uranus, and the relationship with something weird going on technologically and with the Earth, and it's right there. So the moon is the recipient or the focal point of this yod. And again, you've got the square going on. Square with Mercury and square with Pluto. That Pluto square is very intense. All right, so this is what's happening at 6 a.m. This is just an overabundance of water. Water, 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 water. Heavy water. The south node is in the 4th house. Up here, you want to get away from water, you got to go to higher ground. Literally, below the horizon, you are underwater. Okay. So let's look at this. This is interesting. All right. So the city of Kerrville. Let's talk about the city of Kerrville. The city of Kerrville is Aquarius. It's an Aquarian city. All right, what is this? Okay, that's the flood, so we can just get rid of that. Let's put that in there. Okay, so this is Kerrville and the eclipse. That's the October eclipse. Okay. All right, so let's check this out. Let's check this out. So I'm going to show you Kerrville's, and I don't know what time Kerrville was incorporated, but I know the day. I know the day. So Kerrville became Kerrville on January 26, 1856. So I used a 12 o'clock chart. That puts the sun in Aquarius. Kerrville also has Chiron. I believe it's right at the beginning of Aquarius, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, right there. 0 Aquarius. And here's transiting Pluto right on top of Kerrville's Chiron. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. Right now we're talking about the water bearer. And Kerrville's sun is at 6 degrees, Pluto's at 3 degrees, but it's right over the target of Chiron. So literally this idea, this image of this cistern turning. Now this is the eclipse. This is the eclipse energy, right? This is October. So this is at the end of the eclipse. All right, let's go over here though, because Kerrville's nodes are in Aries and Libra, right? Aries and Libra. Where did we see that before? Let's zoom in a little bit more. Where did we see that before? We saw it on the eclipse in October of 23 and the moon, which was right here, right? So the south node for Kerrville is at 27 degrees Libra. The moon, if we go back to 11:30 at night, was at what? 27 degrees Libra. It is right on the south node of Kerrville's south node, right? Transiting moon, 11:30 p.m. on the 3rd is right there. It is bang on. Now, again, what do we have here? This is where the moon is on the eclipse. This is where the south node is. And we have the nodes lining up over here. True node in Aries, true node in Aries. Now, again, I don't know what the ascendant for Kerrville is. So I just I did a nooner, right? But look, we have Uranus transiting on the eclipse. This is like last year. And that's right on Kerrville's Uranus. They have Uranus and Taurus, the city does. So I was really interested in what was going on with the eclipse in the Kerrville chart. Now, I think I have the Kerrville chart plus the flood. So let's see if we can bring that up here. There's that. Let's put this away so we can get it off my desktop. Okay, so yeah, we'll do that. We'll save that one for later. All right, that's the flood. We've seen that one before. We'll put that in there. And we've seen that one, so I'm going to put that in there. Okay, that's the April eclipse. Okay, let me do this. This is 2025. Okay, we looked at that. Let me just go into Astro real quick so I can resurrect this chart. And the chart is going to be Kerrville with the heavy duty flood chart. Let me do that. Give me 1 sec here. Like I said, it's been really fucking surreal. Try not to swear that much. I'm keeping an eye on my screen, but it's been really fucking surreal. People are walking around in a daze. I don't know how this area is going to deal. I really, really don't. I mean, it feels to me like, first of all, unless you were really in a leadership mode, I would not want to be the mayor of this town at all. Okay, so let's do this. Let me see if I can figure this out. because this is going to be a daunting task. I mean, first of all, you're going to have all these logistics. Second of all, you're going to have to moralize this event. Right? You're going to have to keep people kind of motivated, right? Not kind of. You're going to need to keep people motivated, and somebody's going to have to come together and pull this thing together. And I've seen the mayor. He does not inspire a lot of confidence. Let's put it that way. And a lot of these guys just aren't ready for the big time with something like this. You know what I mean? It's like they're local politicians and they make deals and they do real estate stuff and probably belong to some kind of a lodge or something. But they don't. But then again, like who's really trained for this? Not many. Do you remember when they had Katrina and Mike Brown, the guy who basically bred horses and was Bush's buddy, and he put him in charge of FEMA? Remember that? That guy was not prepared for Katrina. Oh, Brownie, he's doing a good job. He's doing a great job. All right. So we're going to look at Kerrville's chart. And this is really the flood moment right here. Let me share this with you guys. Okay, so again, keep in mind, Kerrville is an Aquarian city. So there's that Pluto. We saw it, but it's even more in play now, right? Like just looking at this, Sun Chiron, and again, think of the water bearer. That's the image for tonight's show. Think of the water bearer just dumping the contents of the sky over this city because it is an Aquarian city. It's a very odd city. No doubt. There's that Scorpio moon just hanging out outside of the South Node. We already saw that, right? We saw that. And then, and again, I don't know when Kerrville, when they said, boys, it started off as Brownsville. Some guy named Brown, like, they named it after him, but he had a buddy named Kerr. And they were going, oh, we'll call it Kerrsville. Then they dropped the S to call it Kerrville. So Kerr County was formed on this day, and Kerrville became the seat of the county. So it's right there. So that's why it's an Aquarian city. And again, look at Kerrville. What do we have? We got Jupiter, Neptune, all very watery. And the thing about Kerrville that's kind of interesting is that it is probably one of the most populous cities for people in recovery. Like there's a lot of recovery centers in Kerrville, which is very Piscean. And so just trust me, there's a ton of people here. It's a big, big business. And Kerrville has more millionaires in it than any city in Texas. True. That's true. So let's see if they can open up their pocketbooks a little bit. And I think a lot of the millionaires have made money off of the recovery business, right? So that's all Kerrville. Jupiter in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces, Vesta in Pisces, Pallas in Pisces, all 12th house ruled. And a lot of people that come here to recover actually want to stay here and living. It's like, well, I'm here now. may as well stay, right? So again, I don't know the actual time. I just thought, well, they're probably going to go with 12 noon or 10 o'clock a.m. You know, those were early to bed, early to rise kind of people, right? So even with the moon, Kerrville's got a Virgo moon, which is going to be like in service, right, to all the people. I think Britney Spears came here to dry out one time, at least once. Um, so I just wanted to show this to you, right? I wanted to show you this Plutonian effect on the sun and on Chiron, right? Because it's literally like dumping the contents of the sky. And it's, you know, Pluto, it's deadly. Right? Pluto don't fuck around. And moon's in Scorpio, right? Uh, Kerrville has a Pluto in Taurus. So what is Pluto doing? Pluto square, Pluto moon square, right? Sun, moon, Pluto square. It's all in there. It's all in that fixed T square. You know, I wish I'd looked at this chart beforehand because this is going to be a different city. It is going to be a different city. By the time Pluto stops and then begins to move forward, it'll cross Kerrville's sun. Now, this is where people were talking about like 15-minute cities or something like that. Could I see Kerrville? They've been trying. They've been trying to get these, at least one lithium battery storage plant. But actually doing that and becoming kind of an experimental city is different. But this event is going to change Kerrville, right? Transiting Pluto is going to cross Kerrville's sun finally in 2027, and this is going to be a different place. I don't know what the future holds for Hunt or Ingram. I think they're both unincorporated for the most part. I'm pretty sure about that. And I'm not sure if they're going to be able to rebuild the way that they wanted to rebuild. But the thing with Hunt is that Hunt has a lot of money. The Clintons and the Bushes have a ranch in Hunt together. That's a ranch. It's not down by the river. Who knows what goes on out there? Somebody told me that a couple of years ago. I don't know if they still have it, but they did. The woman who is the heir to the Mexican Coke family and fortune lives in Hunt. So that tells you how much money is out there. And I can see where if money was no issue, they would rebuild these things. However, based on what's happened, I'm not so sure they're going to be able to rebuild it again. Now, the last time this happened in this way was in 1987. So it's not like it hasn't happened before. So I'll give you this was 2 days ago. 2 days ago. So they're referencing, oh, look at that. On July 16th and 17th, when the Guadalupe River turned deadly. I'll show you right here. So it's not like it hasn't happened before. It's done this before. 2 days, created a wall of water. And this is near Comfort. So Comfort is down the road a bit. So it's not like, so there you go. I mean, it's very similar to what we're seeing today. Look at the dates, this July 16th and 17th. What do we know about that period of time? That's when the sun and Sirius are conjunct. Well, let's go back and look at this. July 16th, 1987. And did they have a time when it started to flood? About 7 a.m. So let's look at that. About 7 a.m. Right around the same time, a little bit later. Let's look at it. Let's see where the planets were. All right, let's find this. So there's a history here of this happening. I guess my biggest concern is the politicization of this, and the kind of the phenomenology around this, and just remembering there are people whose lives, children are gone, they're lost. Like, talking about a come to Jesus moment. So I just want to be clear that there's a human toll here, and I'm doing my best to try to look at it from another perspective. Okay, so this is the 1987 flood, and this is right around the same time, 7 a.m. Look at it. You have the sun in Cancer. Now, Sirius is back a little bit. This is Sirius. So we have a lot of Cancer that day. Huge amount of Cancer. Sun, Venus, Mercury. Looks like Venus is conjunct Sirius. And then we have the ascendant right at 7 a.m. So that's a lot of water. Look at the south node. It's in Libra. Look at that. Now, it's in a different position. We've been looking at Libra in the 23s and the 28, right? 27, but it's those same nodes. There's the true node in Aries. We saw it in the chart for Kerrville. We're seeing them again here, right? And these are the same nodes ultimately, although albeit off by a few degrees, of the eclipses, the Aries and the Libra eclipse. So we're dealing with kind of a constant here, right? You've got the sun conjunct the ascendant in Cancer. You've got the nodes in similar signs. Now, Pluto is in Scorpio, so it's at a very different place. But transiting Pluto at 3 retrograde is in square with that Pluto. I think if we're going to make any kind of substantive connection with this event, it's going to be the sun conjunct the ascendant, all the water behind it too. And then there's those nodes again. So those nodes have shown up on the eclipses. They've shown up on the chart of Kerrville, and they showed up again on this event, which was July 16th, 1987. Man, that's wild. That's wild. We've seen these nodes show up in all these various charts. Let me do this really quick. Okay. So we're going to go July. Sometimes this can be an interesting exercise, and sometimes it just is nothing. But I'm going to look at the days between the dates of those two eclipses, those two floods. Let's just see if we have anything interesting here. Any magical numbers? Not really. Every now and then you'll pop up a number and go, oh, look at this. But it's been 13,869 days between the two events, or 37 years, 11 months, and 19 days, including the end date, or 455 months and 19 days. I think the one date that's kind of interesting is that it's 1,981 weeks in 2 days. If we take off the calculation date, it's 1981 in 1 day. And the floods went over 2 days. So if we went to 717, and now we're at 1,981 weeks, 1981. It's an interesting number. That's the one that probably is the most rounded off one. I mean, I'm not very good at prime number stuff. So if somebody out there can tell me if 1981 is a prime number, go for it. It's all yours. So again, is this something that we've seen before? Absolutely. Could there be other things that are in the mix? I would say, based on what has been shown to me, that answer is yes. So why don't we go down that rabbit hole slightly? Okay, again, this is all new information that was shared with me, and I haven't really had a ton of time to research this. So this is kind of just raw and naked, but I'm going to put it up here so you guys can see this. Some of you may already be familiar with this because a lot of you are already totally switched on and you know where to go. So this got sent to me from my guy, Masaki. So now we're getting into some of the potential conspiratorial pieces around this. I want to address the human piece, the astrological piece. So here we go. This is from Hustle Bitch. Holy shit, Texas Cloud Seeding CEO funded by Peter Thiel, connected to Palantir. Meet Augustus Dorico. Let's do this. Augustus Dorico. Who makes these names up? It sounds like something from the latest Coppola movie. A 25-year-old tech bro and Thiel fellow. You know what that means. Pump the blood. Who founded the weather modification startup Rainmaker. According to publicly available info, Dorico's company was reportedly cloud seeding over parts of Texas 2 days before the historic flooding hit those same regions. He received $100,000 through Peter Thiel's fellowship, the same Thiel who co-founded Palantir, their surveillance and defense tech giant tracking everything from troop movements to civilian behavior. Let that sink in. Why is a Palantir connected billionaire funding private weather experiments in Texas? Why is a 25-year-old with no public oversight allowed to modify the sky? They called it stewarding the natural world. Texas got biblical flooding instead. There's that language. This isn't a theory, it's documented. Privately funded and totally unregulated. No vote, no consent, weather manipulation, and a flooded state left asking questions. Sources: Celia Farber, Substack. Teal Fellowship, Scientific America. There's Augustus Dorico. So Grok says yes. He's a Teal Fellow. He founded Rainmaker. They seeded clouds in Texas on July 2nd, 2025. 2 days before the deadly floods and killed 60 plus. Dorico claims seeded clouds dissipated 24 hours prior, denying causation. Cloud seeding is regulated by the Texas Department of Licensing. Efficacy debated. You are wrong. It's not possible to create a flooding scenario like that. What happened from Texas from clouds? You can make it rain a lot, for sure. Not well. It's like piggybacking. It's like piggybacking. It's physically impossible to manipulate weather to this extent. Cloud seeding can only increase precipitation by 10 to 50%. It's marginal. Well, that's what you know, right? That's what you know. You don't really know what kind of cloud seeding they're using. I've met Augustus and many members of the Rainmaker team, and this accusation is really silly if you know them and hear about the current state of the technology. Okay, let's see what I have to say here. Look, I'm neutral about this, but on some level, I'm not. You cannot be serious. Them screwing with controlling the weather resulted in over 80 people dying. Now, we don't know this to be true, but when you read this, it's like, why? 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 We have been having rain, considerable amounts of rain for the last few months. Now, maybe they were involved in all of that. I don't know. Apparently, it's not very transparent. I would think that Mr. Augustus Dorico needs to have a little interrogation. But maybe Greg Abbott knows all about it. Maybe Greg Abbott's in on it. Maybe it won't matter. Augustus Dorico. So we got a 25-year-old in charge of cloud seeding. All right. So we did a little gematria here, and there is a major hit right at the beginning. So Augustus Dorico, you have in the Jewish gematria 1094, you are a grim reaper. Also at 1094, Jesuits. That's interesting. Also at 1094, 33rd degrees. Also at 1094, Declaration of Independence text. It was the 4th of July. Also at 1094, the 7th sign. Very interesting. The one thing about gematria is that a lot of times it's sort of like just scraping. But sometimes you can find some interesting stuff. Like right at the top, you are a Grim Reaper. Jesuits. The 33rd degrees. Declaration of Independence text, 4th of July. Very interesting. I just, I don't know to the extent as to what they're doing with the cloud seeding, but if they're cloud seeding and then we have this major rainfall, I think there's this causation like map out here. Could be. I think those are the 2-3 major like gematria hits. And there were 2 days left, right? There were 2 days left on the license for them to go out and do it. August Dorico. Very interesting. I think that's the, and I know that they had this gas plant that they were going to start up in Kerrville. Like, I don't necessarily think that that's going to be the cause behind it all. August Dorico. What do you guys think? Do you think that there's a there? I mean, I'd have to think that if you're cloud seeding on top of an already heavily saturated, and who knows how long they've been doing it. Like, somebody needs to sit the young man down and say, hey, how long has this been going on? Has this been happening all summer? And what are they using to see the clouds? And why is Peter Thiel? Peter Thiel is everywhere. He's a dangerous man. I'm telling you right now. I'm not even sure he's a man. And he's an alien. I think Peter Thiel's an alien and he's dangerous. And he should not be anywhere near our government. Employing 25-year-old, look, who knows? Maybe Augustus Dorico is an absolute bona fide genius. And maybe that's why he's there at 25 to manipulate the weather with the state of Texas, which gave him a license to do it. I think Greg Abbott, who's on his way out, needs to answer some questions about this. I live here. I haven't even fucking heard of this. And why Texas? Anyway, there's going to be a lot more to come. So I apologize that we got a bit of a late start. This has been just fucking surreal. And I'm pretty sensitive to the vibes and the environment, and I can just tell that it's heavy. This is very, very heavy, and the only thing that is going to turn the ship around is if people really rally together. Really, really, really rally together. And let's take a look at the mayor of Kerrville. Let's see what he has to say. This guy does not inspire a hell of a lot of confidence, just saying. So we get some video on him. Joe Herring. All right, let's see what Joe has to say. Ooh, he's got a weird look. He's got a weird look at the start of this video. He's got a strange look. All right, let me go back in here. Let's see if I can find StreamYard. Right here. Okay, let's take a look at Joe. Very weird look at the onset of this. I want to show it to you. Let's see. He immediately starts to look sideways. You see that? All right. This is the man that's going to lead us out of the wet, soaking muddy mire of this flood.
On behalf of the city of Kerrville and our 25,000 citizens, I want to say thank you to the federal government, the state government, county government. You know, as I look around the room in the Emergency Operations Center, I don't see different agencies from the state, the federal, the county. I see one team working together. It's important for our community to know it's one team. We will rescue those in peril, and we will find those who are lost. I continue to ask everyone who sees this today to pray for Kerrville and Kerr County. We need your prayers. And thank God we have the help of the federal government and the state government in this horrible, horrible crisis. Thank God for our country, and thank God for all the help we are receiving today.
Obviously, very emotional for this guy, so I'm not going to crack too hard on him. Very emotional. I get it, right? I'm not going to crack too hard on him. But if I had to, if I had to do it, or if I had to coach somebody to do it, it just feels like there's too much outside agency. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, we have all these people here. They're part of all these different groups or agencies. And I don't see this group. I just see one group. Okay, well, that's fine. And then he goes into the prayer mode. And we just need your prayers. We need your prayers. We need your prayers. And both of those to me they're fine, right? And this is a very Christian area, so I don't want to rain on their faith, although rain would be a very loaded word to use. But you've got to project strength there in that moment. You've got to project strength. You have to. And yes, I get it. He was on the verge of tears. But it's like, where are you? Where are you in there, Joe? Right? You're invoking the prayer. You're invoking these agencies. A lot of outer agency. And again, it's easy for me to sit here and say it, but I'm just telling you, he is not evoking strength. And again, not many mayors have been through this, so I'm going to cut him some slack. And maybe over the days to come, this guy will become a tiger, he'll become a lion, right? Like there's always a chance for that. There's always a chance for it. But if it were me and I was coaching him, or if it was me and I was the mayor, I would say something to the effect of, first of all, I'd like to thank all the first responders for being here. And I think the one team thing is a good thing. Like, I think recognizing them I want to thank them for being here. They all mobilized incredibly quickly. And I don't see any different agencies. I just see one team. I think that's fine. At that point, you have to come in with a moment of strength and look right into the camera and say something to the effect of, as a mayor, I never thought I would have to manage a devastating situation like this. But you have my word as your mayor that I am going to work tirelessly every single day and night until missing body has been found. And from that point forward, as a city and as a county, we're going to have to put our hands together and pitch in and help rebuild Kerrville and Hunt and Ingram. And with the same amount of tenacity that I will use to find anyone alive or missing, I will use the same tenacity to make sure that we as a community are back on our feet. And we will use this as a time of testing who we are as a community. And I'm going to be here for each and every one of you to the most that I can be. This cause is my cause, it's your cause, it's our cause. We're one family now. And let's move forward. And let's find these people. And then once we do, we'll have the appropriate ceremonies or recognition. And then let's pull together and clean it up and build it back. And let's show America, what the Hill Country and South Central Texas and Kerrville is. That's what I would do, right? That's the kind of, you can thread the needle and be humble and be aware of what's going on, but you have to project strength. He was not strong. He's just like, hey, whether it's prayer, the Army, or the Army Corps of Engineers, or the Rangers, or the National Guard, or whoever, right? We need your prayers. Prayers are nice. Joe, we need you to step up, right? We need you to step up. Like, I think it would have been really appropriate for him to look like he was going to go from that meeting to go out and search for people. Right? Like, I think like he didn't have to dress in camo or any shit like that. But this is just me. Don't look like a guy who is sitting there on casual Friday. And I know it's a very tense emotional situation, but you have to go there. You have to be able to display strength and leadership. And you can say, oh, well, he's being soft as a leader, like he's being competitive. You can be both. Right? You can be both. A person can be both. I don't know if that's at the right tone. And you're like, well, he's never done it before. It's because these guys, they're not built for this. Right? They come from this kind of clerical management class. That's where they come from. And he's probably a decent guy. I don't know him. I got sick of local politics when I ran for city council, and I just saw that most people didn't really want to wake up. But you gotta come with a stronger game than that. That does not inspire a lot of confidence. It just inspires agency, and I'm sorry, neediness. Sorry, not sorry. And maybe I'm being too hard on the guy, but this is like the Gene Hackman fucking moment in the Poseidon Adventure. Roll up your sleeves. Maybe he's just not built that way. Maybe that's just who he is. And if that's the case, then maybe he needs to find another spokesman, right? Somebody who can. If you're a citizen of Kerrville in this area and you see that, you're like, okay, pray some more. Pray some more, and trust the plan. I don't want to sound too hard on the guy. He's going through a very traumatic experience. I get it. But you've got to portray a level of strength so that people will. You have to set a tone. You have to set a tone. Because right now, I tell you right now, this fucking place is depressed. And rightfully so. There's a lot of emotion here. And you have to honor the emotion, but you also have to take charge and say, listen, we're gonna get through this. We're gonna find these people. And we're not going to stop until they're all found. And if for whatever reasons, one or two slip through the cracks, we pray to God we'll find them someday or right? You've got to have that. You've got to acknowledge that. And then when the time comes, we are going to come in here and we're going to clean this place up and we're going to do it together. Right? We're going to do it together. This is a time to show Texas and the rest of the world what this city, what the Hill Country, what Kerr County is made of. We're Americans, and this is a tragedy, and we rise to the occasion of the tragedy. We are one people, one city, one county, one country. This is the spirit we embody. And this is what we're going to demonstrate to the world. You do that, and you do without grandstanding, you're going to get people behind you. And people will throw down. They'll say, okay, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? This guy's got to roll up his sleeves. He's got to have a freaking command central. He's got to have shit on a map, right? We're here, 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 and here. And but he's not built for that. He comes from the clerical administrative class. He deals with budgets and deals, and this is how local politics works, right? Anyway, I don't want to be too hard on him, and maybe in the days to come, we'll see him emerge as a stronger leader, but Joe, you got to do better than that. It's too much outside agency. Too much outside agency. I don't know his background. Let's see if we can find it. All right. So, yeah, he's like a career administrative. Oh, looks like he might even be a Mason. Hold on. Now, just because he got an award doesn't mean he is a Mason. Okay, so he's been around. He's like a career politician. Kerrville City Council, 1994. Kerrville Public Utility Board, 92-94. President Kerrville Kiwanis Club, 92-93. President Kerrville Old Town Merchant Group, 94-95. Member Kerr County Historical Commission, 2003. Past member Kerrville Main Street Advisory Board. Theater Restoration Group, Riverside Nature Association. I've seen people like this. Civic Leader Award, Kerr County League of Women Voters. Community Builder Award, Kerrville Masonic Lodge, 1996. Reader's Choice, Best Columnist, Kerrville Daily Times. Board Member, Texas Lyceum. Community Historian, Daughters of the American Revolution. Member Advisory Board, Any Baby Can, Inc. Kerrville Special Events Committee. Board Directors, Playhouse. Church Council, Trinity Baptist Church. President, Symphony Hills Association. Board Directors, Kerrville Folk Festival. Someone told me that. Board of Directors, Kerrville Area Chamber of Commerce. Board of Directors, Kerrville Chamber of Commerce again. The Sesquicentennial Celebration. Chair, Kerr County. Citizenship Award, Sons of the American Revolution. Kerrville Daily Times. Bill Dozier, Citizen of the Year. So clearly he's got a background in being an administrator. And he owns a printing company. General manager of Herring Printing Company. He writes a weekly column for the Kerr County Loud. He went to Tybee High School, is a UT graduate, married his college sweetheart. He seems like a very nice guy who's built into the local political scene. But you know what he hasn't dealt with? He hasn't dealt with chaos. This is a Saturnian type, right? He's a Saturnian type. He joins all the right clubs, gets all the right awards, starts his own business, marries his college sweetheart, right? Has a printing business. This is very Saturnian. People like this do not understand how to deal with chaos because they built their lives on the foundation of order. And now he's just had a big dump of chaos come into his life. And people that aren't used to dealing with chaos, they can't handle it. This is a guy that has built his professional career on basically being a career politician. Now, I don't know who these other people are. Jeff Harris, retired detective, Kerrville County Police. I don't know who any of these people are. Place 3, Kent McKinney. Anyway, maybe that's who. Yeah, those they're city council people. They have 4 city councilmen and 1 mayor who breaks their votes. And Brenda Hughes, Buzzy's Barbecue, which I think is family. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you agree with me? Am I being too hard on him? I'm just looking at it from how he's wired. And he's not built for chaos. And not a lot of people are. That guy's built for order. And now he's got a big plate of chaos in his lap. Interesting. Speaking of chaos, look who's back. Look who's back on the scene. Yeah. We were worried about you. Yeah, we were. You were in a bad state the other day. And it wasn't the state of Kerrville. But close. You were here. Anyway, I'm not sure how much more I have to add. The situation is ongoing, obviously. And I'll be talking about this over the next couple of weeks. 15 minutes of flame. I'll give you guys some updates. I'll try and go around and take some more pictures. When the water recedes, they're going to find a bunch of shit. They'll find dead bodies, dead cows, pets, cars, you name it. It's going to be just a absolute sort of laundry trap of matter, both organic and inorganic. So there we go. All right, thanks for being here, and I appreciate you hanging around while I've been spaced out. I've just been really spaced out over the last 48 hours, and just trying to wrap my head around all this. I got to be, 100 here. I started looking at new places to live this last week, and not in this city. I'm not going to say the city that I was looking at, but let's just say it is a significant distance from this one. And I started looking this last week because I've been feeling restless as hell. And then this comes along. I'm like, oh, isn't that interesting? Anyway, to be continued. All right, thanks for being here. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. We also have an opportunity to jump in. I still think there's a discount for the bridge event that's coming up in October. And David, Big Daddy Palmer is going to be there along with myself and a bunch of other people. And should be a really cool event. I mean, if you're going to try to get away, if you're going to have one getaway this year, Texas in October is beautiful. The hotel is brand new. They've got a cool swimming pool. They've got a terrace. Like this is going to be a nice getaway, and there's going to be a bunch of interesting people, interesting content. Rion is going to bring a lot of his, really far out technology. We're going to have, like 5K cams. It's going to be great streaming setup. So this is all first class, top notch. If you're gonna take your trip this year, I would recommend this place and this event. You're also not very far from Dallas, which in my estimation is a very underrated city. There's some very cool things about Dallas. If you wanted to stick around for a few more days, Dallas has an excellent museum, an art district. You can go see where Kennedy was shot. It's a good food city. And I think at that time, even the Cowboys might be playing. Who knows? Maybe you want to go see a Cowboy game. Anyway, that link is in the description as well. If you want to get a reading, you can do that as well. If you want to buy me a cup of coffee, you can do that as well. All right, let's just wrap it up one more time here. I believe that what we saw here and the byproduct of it is related to the two eclipses. I showed you the eclipse map for the eclipse chart for the October eclipse, the chart for Kerrville, which is very similar, right? And then the 1987 flood, which had the nodes both in Libra and in Aries, not at the same degree, but very, very close. And both the 87 the 87 flood and this flood, it was Cancer ascending, Cancer sun on the ascendant. It was the same configuration. Although with this eclipse, the conjunction with Heliacal Sirius and Jupiter, and then that 28-degree Libra moon, right? It's that wild, wobbly degree, which is what is 5 or 6 degrees off of the moon in Libra during the eclipse in October. So there's all of that, and then the moon moves into very dark Scorpio, dark water, the square to Pluto in the 8th. You have Kerrville as an Aquarian city, Sun conjunct Chiron, and transiting Pluto right on top of both. Right on top of both. Pluto literally dumping the dark water onto this area. And then you also have Augustus Doric and his water seeding technology, which, by the way, happens to be very Aquarian. That's right, Aquarian. So I would say they all fit together, and they all symbolically and astrologically have a story to tell here, especially Cancer. So much water. So much water. And again, why here? Go back to the Kerrville chart. Chiron, Sun, Aquarius, Pluto right on top. Right on top. And the sister overturns and comes down. And who knows, maybe 25-year-old Augustus Doric might have played a role in all this as well. We'll see in the days to come. All right. Thanks again for being here. I'll continue to have updates as this thing unfolds. Maybe I'll try and get some interviews with some people. It's like I don't feel entirely comfortable going out and here, let me put my cell phone in your face, and can you talk to me about what happened? I'm not. There's a time for that. It's not right now. Right now, it's time to just kind of assimilate and figure out what the hell is going on here. All right. Thanks for being here. We'll be back on Tuesday with the astro weather. With a heavy heart, I say take care of yourselves. Treat each other well. God bless. Love you all. And bye for now.